Once upon a time, in the wealthy neighborhood of Asokoro, lived a woman whose name was Chizzy. Chizzy was so elegant, gentle that even her smile felt like a blessing. Her mansion was one of the biggest in the estate, with maids, gardeners, and security guards scattered everywhere like stars in the sky. But there was one rule in the entire house, a rule that no one dared to break. No one enters Madame Chizzy's kitchen. Not her maids, not her husband, not even her younger sister who visited often. For over 7 straight years, Chizzy kept the kitchen locked. She didn't care about the gossips that followed, or the constant bickering of family members who pondered on why she prohibited everyone from ever entering her kitchen. She did not explain to anyone, or even apologize, because Chizzy had told them from the beginning that they either accept the rule or leave her house. Everyone in the house agreed to abide by her rule, hence why they were allowed to either live or work in her home. Whenever anyone asked why her kitchen was always locked, Chizzy would simply smile at them and reveal that some doors are better left closed. Her smile was always soft, her tone gentle, and her eyes carried a story that no one could crack. Even her husband Obina had learned to respect the rule. He never crossed it, not after the day that he tried. It happened on one afternoon when Obina decided to make a cup of noodles for himself after returning home from work early. Chizzy was not home at the time. She left out his lunch on the dining table before heading out, but Obina was craving noodles and tried to satisfy his craving. So he took out the spare key from her drawer and inserted it into the kitchen lock. The moment the key clicked, Chizzy busted into the house, panting, trembling with tears in her eyes. "Don't open that door!" she shouted as Obina froze. He had never seen his wife scream before in his life. Her face turned red, her breathing shallow as her hands shook violently as she grabbed the key out of the lock, holding it to her chest. Obina stared at her in shock. His wife looked like someone who had just seen a ghost. He asked what had happened, but Chizzy wiped her eyes and made him promise that he would never do it again. Obina had no other option but to agree. He kept away from the kitchen, hoping that one day his wife would tell him the reason why she never let anyone into her kitchen. Many gossiped, as they all wondered what Chizzy could be hiding in the kitchen. Some even went as far as saying that Chizzy was a witch who did some incantations in the food that she made. Her neighbors stopped visiting her home as they feared what would become of them after they ate her food. They believed that Chizzy was using her kitchen for money-making rituals. Some said that she served her husband special soups just to control him, whilst others claimed that she was hiding a dead body inside, but Chizzy never explained, not even for once. She cooked every meal herself at exactly the same time every day, washed the dishes alone, cleaned the kitchen no matter how tired she was. All her maids looked at her confused. They always ate to their fill, but found it weird that their madame never asked them for help in the kitchen. In fact, she washed their plates after each meal, which was so strange to the maids. One of the maids, Ngozi, could no longer handle it. "I don't feel safe eating food my madam cooked and then seeing her wash my plates herself. Something is wrong. I don't think I can keep staying in this house." The other maids begged her not to overthink it. Some said madam was simply a kind person, whilst others whispered that she was hiding something darker, but Ngozi had made up her mind. The next morning, she packed her bags, walked straight to Chizzy and resigned. Chizzy, being the gracious woman that she was, paid Ngozi her complete salary, despite it being the beginning of a new month. Ngozi left the mansion sad, as something deep within her spirit convinced her that she was making the biggest mistake of her life. However, the other maids remained in the mansion, doing their chores diligently as they avoided the kitchen at all costs. A few days later, a new maid resumed, a girl named Uzuma, who was so full of questions. Her mother was very sick, and Uzuma needed a job urgently to cater for her mother's hospital bills. So when Chizzy asked if she was fine with the rule, Uzuma nodded her head like a helpless chicken. She resumed work in the mansion, but her mind could not help but wonder why her madam never allowed anyone into the kitchen. Uzuma pretended not to care. However, whenever her madam was inside cooking, she would press her ear on the door, hoping to hear anything that would make sense. Sometimes she heard silence, sometimes she heard soft humming, sometimes she heard Chizzy singing a strange song, and Uzuma could not help but wonder why she locked everyone out. One afternoon, Uzube, the senior maid, caught Uzuma with her ear glued to the kitchen door. She confronted her, asking what she was doing by the door, and Uzuma jumped in terror, her eyes bulging. Nothing. I was just stretching. Uzube hissed loudly. Stretching kwa? With your ear on the door? I am warning you for the last time. Don't put yourself in trouble. If Madame sees you, you will lose this job. Uzuma rolled her eyes. But why is everyone afraid? It's just a kitchen now. Uzube looked at her straight in the eyes. That is not just a kitchen. And if you know what's good for you, you'll stay away. But Uzuma refused to listen. She was so stubborn and curious. In fact, too curious for a person who was expected to abide by the house rules. The next afternoon, Uzuma's curiosity returned with full force. Chizzy was outside by the garden, taking a phone call. As Uzuma saw this as the perfect opportunity, she tiptoed to the kitchen door again. This time, she knelt down and examined the lock. Just a peep, she whispered to herself as she gently turned the doorknob, not to open it, but to test if it was fully locked. Click! The sound echoed through the door. As she tried to walk into the kitchen, suddenly she felt a cold tap on her shoulder. Uzuma turned and caught sight of her madame, who was now standing behind her. Her face calm in a way that was more frightening than anger. Uzuma's throat went dry instantly. Madam, I was just cleaning. Cleaning the lock? Chizzy asked softly, her voice gentle as Uzuma felt a knot in her stomach. Her madam stepped closer as she began to speak to her calmly. Uzuma, she said quietly, you are young and you need this job. Your mother needs you. Your family needs you. Uzuma swallowed hard. I know you are curious, Chizzy continued, her eyes soft but sad. You want to understand what everyone else is afraid of. She placed her hand on the door gently, almost lovingly. But some things, some pain, some secrets are not meant to be touched. Her voice cracked slightly. If you ever try this again, she whispered, I will have no other choice but to let you go. And trust me, I do not want to send you away. Uzuma nodded vigorously, tears gathering in her eyes. Good, Madame Chizzy said with a sad smile as she walked away, leaving the kitchen door untouched. But as Chizzy disappeared into the hallway, Uzuma noticed something. Her madame's hand, the one she rested on the door, was trembling violently. And no matter how much she feared losing her job, Uzuma knew one thing for sure. She would snoop again, no matter the cost. Weeks passed, and Uzuma tried her best to behave, but curiosity, they say, could be a dangerous thing. Every day, she watched her madame cook alone, wondering what could be so terrifying behind the door that her madame refused them to access. One Thursday afternoon, when the sun was high and the house was quiet, Uzuma's curiosity finally swallowed her whole. Madame Chizzy had gone out for a women's meeting. Uzube was in the backyard hanging clothes. The security guards were at the gate. The mansion was unusually silent. Uzuma wiped her palms on her apron, her heart thumping. Today, I will know what is in that kitchen. She tiptoed through the hallway, her eyes darting left and right like a thief. Madame Chizzy's bedroom door stood slightly open, a rare opportunity. Uzuma swallowed hard and slipped inside. The bedroom was spotless, elegant, perfumed, everything arranged like it belonged in a magazine. Her eyes went straight to the small drawer beside the bed. It was partly open. A golden key glimmered inside. Her breath caught. This must be it. She grabbed it with shaking hands, almost dropping it from excitement. Her legs felt like noodles as she tiptoed out of the room. Every creak of the door felt like thunder. She rushed to the kitchen hallway, heart pounding so loudly that she feared the entire house could hear it. The kitchen door towered before her like a giant. Her hand trembled as she inserted the key into the lock. She held her breath, turned it, froze, then turned it again, but the lock did not budge, not even a little. Her eyebrows folded as she pushed harder. Nothing. She twisted the key upside down, still nothing. She pulled the knob, still nothing. Confused, she removed the key and looked at it closely, realizing that she had just stolen the wrong key. Uzuma was so furious. She could not understand why all her plans were failing one after the other. She stomped her foot in frustration and paced angrily across the corridor. How can a whole key be useless? Which kind of wahala be this now? She hissed underneath her breath as she clutched the fake key in her fist, feeling so cheated that she began to rant angrily. This woman self, what is she hiding in this kitchen? Her anger burned hotter than her fear as she returned the fake key to her pocket, vowing to open the kitchen even if it was the last thing that she did. And fate finally answered to her calling. One evening, whilst her husband was away, Chizzy informed her staff that she was expecting some visitors. She told the maids to retire to bed early as she didn't want anyone disturbing her guests. I don't want any noise in the house tonight. Please make sure everything is in order, and whatever happens, do not come near the kitchen, Chizzy said to her maids, who all nodded their heads in agreement as they rushed off to finish their chores. Uzuma watched as Chizzy locked herself in the kitchen. Her eyes sparkled with curiosity as she wondered who the visitors could be and why her madam did not want anyone to meet with them. So many questions ran through her mind as she scrubbed the floor and got everywhere ready for the guests. Uzuma, filled with so much curiosity, asked her fellow maid Agatha who the visitors could be, and Agatha advised her to mind her business. You better behave yourself. Madam does not play with her rules, so you know what you are doing before you put yourself in trouble, she said to Uzuma, whose mind had already begun to race with theories. Hours later, Chizzy ordered the maids to go to bed as she welcomed her guests to her home. Uzuma did everything within her power to remain calm, but the secrecy began to eat her alive. Her curiosity was now a fire that she could no longer quench. Uzuma lay in her bed restless, her eyes wide open, as she listened to the faint whispers that came from the distance. She shut her eyes tighter, trying so hard to sleep, but the sleep refused to come. Uzuma in that moment decided to find out what the secrecy was all about. Hours later, when the guests had all gone, Uzuma saw this as the best time to unravel the mystery of her madam's kitchen. She got out of bed and tiptoed down the corridor. Everywhere was completely silent as Uzuma felt her heart race in her chest. She arrived at the kitchen a few minutes later, but met it locked. Uzuma stood in front of the door, disappointed. She pressed her ear gently against it, hoping to hear anything, when suddenly she heard the window bang inside the kitchen. Uzuma opened her eyes in excitement as she rushed to the back of the house and found the window truly open. Without thinking twice, Uzuma grabbed the branch of the tree next to the window and pulled herself up. She climbed up the tree and climbed into the kitchen like a cat. The moment her feet touched the tiles, she opened her eyes wide in excitement. The kitchen was breathtaking, more beautiful than any kitchen she had ever seen in her life. White marble counters, spotless tiles, a chandelier hanging softly overhead, every appliance shining like it had never been touched. Chimo, she whispered as she turned slowly and scanned the entire kitchen. Nothing looked strange or demonic like everyone had thought. Uzuma walked around carefully, opening the fridge, admiring the pots, and even pressing the buttons on the appliances that she had never seen before. Uzuma saw nothing unusual. She stood there wondering why her madam had prohibited everybody from ever entering her kitchen, when suddenly she heard a sound outside the door. Uzuma froze, her heart banging against her chest. The sound outside the door grew louder as fear swallowed her entire body. Without thinking twice, Uzuma ran to the window and climbed out. She landed on the ground and sprinted back to her room, breathless as her entire body shook like a leaf in harmattan breeze. Uzuma jumped into her bed as she thanked God for saving her life. Within minutes, she fell into a very deep sleep, not knowing that her actions had already awoken something deadly that she would regret. Hours later, a strange smell began to fill the air as a loud explosion tore through the kitchen. Uzuma had mistakenly switched on the gas when she snuck into the kitchen. The entire kitchen went up in flames as the fire leapt into the corridor beside the kitchen. The heat intensified as the flames slowly rolled down the corridor like a river of red dirt. The maids rushed out of their quarters to realize that the fire had left them trapped. They screamed out in terror as Chizzy rushed down to meet the horrifying scene. Her worst nightmare had finally happened, despite all that she did to stop it. No, she screamed, her voice cracking, as she watched one of her maids collapse on the floor unconscious. Chizzy called out for help as her security guards and neighbors did all they could to stop the fire. Minutes later, the fire service arrived, but by the time the fire was completely put out, two of her maids had already lost their lives. Uzuma survived with a bad burn as she and the other maids were rushed to the hospital. Chizzy in that moment remembered the prophecy that she received so many years ago about blood flowing through her home. Her late mother, who had the gift of prophecy, warned her of the disaster that was to come. Chizi's legs weakened as the memory of the prophecy hit her like a thunderbolt. She could still hear her mother's trembling voice from all those years ago. "My daughter, guard your kitchen. A fire will rise from that place and blood will flow. It will not be your hand that ignites it, but the hand of one who enters uninvited. If that door ever opens for another, dare to pass through your home." For 7 years, Chizi obeyed that warning with fear and devotion, locking her kitchen from the world. But now, as she watched her mates wheeled into ambulances and saw the lifeless bodies covered in white sheets, she realized that the prophecy had come to pass exactly the way it was foretold. Back in the hospital, however, Uzuma opened her eyes in regret. The weight of what she had done crashed over her like a mountain. For the first time in her life, she understood the true meaning of regret. Uzuma remembered the exact words her mother had said to her when she caused a huge fight in their village. Uzuma, filled with so much curiosity, overheard a family secret that she repeated to the wrong person. This caused a huge fight in the village as her mother warned her sternly of her bad behavior. "My daughter, if you are not careful, this your curiosity will bring disaster to a place that gives you shelter." Her mother had warned, tears in her eyes as she held Uzuma's trembling hands. "You don't hear word. One day, you open a door you are never meant to touch and the consequences will be bigger than you." Lying helplessly on the hospital bed, Uzuma finally understood what those words truly meant. The burns on her body were nothing compared to the fire of guilt burning inside her chest. She had destroyed the only place that gave her mother hope. She had caused death. She had caused pain. She had brought the prophecy to life with her own hands. As nurses rushed past her room and the sound of grieving families echoed through the hallway, Uzuma covered her face with her trembling palms as she wept bitterly. "God, what have I done?" she cried, her voice cracking with shame. She remembered the beautiful kitchen she had admired, the shiny fridge, the spotless tiles, the forbidden chandelier. She remembered thinking it was harmless curiosity, just a little adventure, nothing more. But now, 2 maids were dead. Jesus' home was ruined, a prophecy had been fulfilled, and the weight of it rested entirely on her shoulders. Uzuma burst into tears, realizing that she had become the very hand the prophecy warned about, the hand that ignited the fire, the hand that brought death into a peaceful house. She sobbed uncontrollably, wishing she could turn back the hands of time, wishing that she had listened to Nzube and obeyed her madam's rule. But it was already too late, as Uzuma regretted her actions for the rest of her life. The lesson to be learned from this story is that some boundaries are not punishment but protection. Curiosity without wisdom can become a dangerous weapon, and disobedience to simple instructions can destroy far more than we can imagine. When we ignore warnings, we open doors that were shut to save us. Uzuma learned too late that respecting rules, even when we don't understand them, can be the difference between safety and tragedy. I hope you